This is called An American Ballad of Otherness. And it might be my last piece. I don't know how long it is. I get a little carried away in the jungles. I started hanging out with a wolf pack that called themselves the cherry pickers, which I know, gross. But also, who was I to judge? Wolves were going extinct. It was always in the papers with headlines like, "Last wild Canadian wolf pack seen at the edge of abyss," and "First Lady wears wolf teeth wrist cuffs at Met Gala." The cherry pickers were big, bad wolves. They were survivors, and they were cool to me. I guess it made me feel cool, or chosen. I'd heard stories about them for a couple years from my friend Benny. Like, they'd had a run-in with some lesbian separatists in Grant Pass that had ended in blood, though no one said whose blood. And then there were those rumors about breeding habits and mescaline that were really hard to believe. I kept the feminist rhetoric to a minimum when I was with the group, but they weren't like misogynists. The leader of the pack called himself Lil' Kim. You see? It's like trying to explain to my mom why I like murder rap. I've never figured out how. And if you don't feel the spirit of rebellion in it, if it doesn't intoxicate you, the righteous power of it, then maybe you should just stay away. Maybe no one ever taught you about riptides, the ones that suck you out into the ocean. The worst thing you can do is resist. And anyway, Lil' Kim was the baddest. And if you can't respect that, as Jay-Z says, your perspective, I can't see it. Direct quote. There are things you can't understand if you're not on the edge of extinction. Like, take me. I was this blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl from farm country. I didn't know the people that hunted wolves, but we shared a face. Why would they have kept me around? I hung on Lil' Kim's every word. That thing about the riptides, I got that from him. He said history was this powerful tide. When he spoke about it, I could see this dark thread flow out from his mouth and float above the heads of the wolves gathered around the fire that would river around us, alighting and condensing, matching his cadence, and you could see the fire understood it, that it shared a language, and as his passion grew, there would be these gold flecks that would appear and weave into the thread, and when there was enough gold, the thread would take off towards the night sky and just rise and rise and rise. No one ever said, and that's where stars come from. Like, no one ever told me to stop eating vegetarian or to steal bullet casings from hunting grounds and make necklaces out of them. No one told me to start seducing hunters, tying them to bedposts and leaving them there. No one told me to tattoo bitten cherries between my breasts. And saying that now, I know how it sounds. Like I was some crazy kid in love, like I thought I was one of them. One night, a couple hours before dawn, the pack was sleeping in an abandoned mall. And I think the only reason I was awake is that malls have always really creeped me out. So I had perched on the counter of what had once been a hot dog on a stick, and I was braiding strips of old magazines, trying to remember what I had been taught about basket weaving, and suddenly there were bright, piercing lights everywhere, and what sounded like an enormous swarm of bees. Something large took a bite out of my left shoulder, and there was a flash of heat, and then I passed out. I woke up in a hospital in Oregon City. The bite had been a bullet, and around its careful bandages, a spider-webbed blue-black crept out, the color of terrible storms. I was on too many painkillers to cry when Benny told me what happened, that we had been ambushed by this amateur SWAT team of hunters. Most of the pack was dead. No one had seen Lil' Kim. I'd like to tell you I went to the funeral, that it took place on the ranch of an old blind lady everyone called Jessica Rabbit. I'd like to tell you it was a large affair, more like a protest than a funeral. Hardened criminals standing side by side with conservationists, the state police standing at the perimeter, and murders of crows behind them. I'd like to tell you everything turned out. Everyone came, that we were fancy in our grief because that was all that was left. Black satin everything. Hat brims wide as wingspan, chartreuse feathers arcing like St. Louis, horns howling. But there was no funeral, and no one picked me up from the hospital. I was kicked out as soon as I could walk. I slept on some friends' couches for a while, kept my scar covered, refused to talk to anyone who asked about it. What was there to say? I felt small. I felt like a dot on a map that was a dot on a map. You'd think I would have stopped listening to murder rap. You'd be wrong. Like all those hunters who think they've won. I listen to it constantly. Biggie and Tupac, NWA, Dr. Dre, Lauryn Hill, The Queen, and the first thing every morning, Magic Stick, in headphones, on repeat. As soon as I was strong enough, I started going to the ocean. When a riptide comes and pulls you out, you can't try to swim in. Your muscles will weaken too quickly. You have to swim instead, parallel to the shore. That much you can learn from any lifeguard instructor, but I will tell you another secret to surviving it. You imagine it is not the force of an ocean dragging you down, but gold jewelry. Gold dripping off every inch of you. Chains you purchase with your moves and your magic. You keep swimming. Imagine your memories are the ocean. Imagine history is the ocean, and keep swimming. Wait till you feel the right moment, when the riptide is past. Wait for your chance to come in.